I can't do it. Okay. We'll do it live.
Okay. No.
We'll do it live. Fuck it. Do it live. I'll write it and we'll do it live. Fuck it.
You think he watches that back and just kind of laughs at it, Jim Moore? You think Bill O'Reilly still kind of gets a kick out of that?
Yeah, I would think so. If anyone has a sense of humor about themselves, you'd have to get a kick out of that, wouldn't you?
Yeah, but do we think that Bill O'Reilly has got a sense of humor? Somewhere deep inside, he's got a sense of humor. Well, maybe he does. You never know. It's a Wednesday edition of the Daily Puck Drop here on YouTube. It's also on Twitter/X, also on the PuckSports mobile app. If you don't have it, iPhone users, download it today from the App Store. Android users, it's coming soon. Google Play, man, they really put you through the ringer to try to get this thing approved. I'm going to tell you that. It's like 3 weeks, and you got to have like a bunch of people test the damn thing before. So Android users, it's coming soon. There obviously were some hiccups yesterday with like stream limits and all that. We overloaded the system yesterday. That's what we did. We overloaded it. We burned the thing down, but we think we've got it all fixed out. So we're away. We're running. We got a jam-packed show for you today. Ryan Divish is going to stop on by a little bit later. Jim and I are just going to yell and scream at each other for about the next 40 minutes or so. Danny Kelly from The Ringer will stop on by, talk a little football, and then a little fantasy stuff, a little fantasy, not fantasy role-playing, but just fantasy football. And then, hey, what the puck, as we wrap up every single daily puck drop. Also, it's a Cougar Wednesday. All of our Cougar content is out. Cougs Corner with a surprise visit from offensive coordinator Ben Arbuckle. We were set to interview somebody else, and Bill Stevens was like, they can't do it now. Who do you need? And I'm like, just grab somebody. He grabbed Arbuckle, and it was a great decision. He was fantastic. And I'm going to tell you right now, he's a real humble person when it comes to his golf game. I think he feels he could probably tee it up on the PGA Tour. Says he hits it about 310 yards.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's just hope he calls up some good plays Saturday night, and then we'll talk about his golf game after that.
He was real brief when I asked him about, hey, what went into the decision in overtime to throw the ball? It was a mistake, wrong communication. Real short and sweet.
That was it?
Yeah.
Or how about the fake punt that we had? And we asked Dean to run 20 yards to pick it up.
Well, he doesn't call that. That's not him. He's the offensive coordinator. He's not the head coach and special teams coach.
Well, whatever.
And he doesn't call the plays on the special teams. Why would I ask the offensive coordinator, hey, why don't you guys run a fake punt?
Hey, listen, can you tell your listeners and viewers, or I will anyway,
Yeah.
When you talk about hiccups, when you have hiccups,
yeah,
sometimes they go on forever and you can't figure out how to stop them.
Do you have them right now?
No, I don't. But that's what I was thinking during the old Crimson broadcast. When you talk about hiccups, that was pretty much 45 minutes of continual hiccups.
Yeah.
If you want to watch that episode whenever that drops.
Yeah.
Is it 1 o'clock today?
It's already out. That's what I just said. It's already out.
Yeah. It's already out. Well, usually you have the thing go out at 1. Okay.
No, it's been going out at 8, but thanks for paying attention.
Okay.
The old Crimson podcast, I call it the fuck you podcast because we set the record for the amount of fuck yous that were said in the podcast. One, Paul could not figure out how to turn his camera on. You're taking phone calls during the show.
No, I wasn't.
Yes, you did. You took a phone call during the show.
And you know what? That was some bot. I was trying to get tickets for my kids to the Boise State game, which you gave me shit about. Like most dads would help their kids out trying to get them tickets. But you, for some reason, were like, oh, I'm out on that. If my kids,
I didn't
say, when are you going to let your kids, when are you going to let your kids grow up, Jim?
Didn't say that. Didn't say that.
I always get some fucking lecture about, perfect dad, Jason Puckett. He knows how to raise his kids.
Didn't say that. You're
Yes, you did.
No, you are.
You
are
intimated
lying
that
to the
I
listener.
read between the lines. Quit talking over me. We're not at KJR anymore.
Because if I don't, you won't shut up. I didn't say that. Not
you
what I said.
You intimated that.
I just said.
So anyway, the person
hold on, let me finish. I said, could you handle the tickets after we're done recording, so you're not taking phone calls.
That's what I was trying to do, and the bot called me. That was a scammer. That was a scammer who said, gee, I really want to go to the game, but my mom died, so I have to sell the tickets.
Ooh.
And then I looked at the Facebook profile of this person, and you could tell that it was a fake one. God, why are there so many scammers in the world? Go make your own fucking money, Just go out there and earn your own money. Quit trying to
stop swearing much.
Those people should just burn to death so it will stop others from doing it. I'm not kidding, Puck.
I'm
with
you.
Scammers out there on everything. I'm just trying to find 2 tickets so my kids can drive to Boise and go to a game.
Yeah.
And there's some asshole out there who's trying to scam me for a couple $100.
That's the
Come
worst.
on.
It's the worst. It's the absolute worst. Yeah.
But I found a fellow Coug, Jason McKinney. Nice guy. I feel bad. He and his wife ended up with COVID, and he ended up selling me tickets last night. $58 each. Okay, to go to the Boise State game.
Not bad.
All right. Okay.
For how many? Just 2?
Yeah, 58 each. Yeah, 116.
Yeah, that's a good deal.
Yeah, I think so.
Where are the boys going to stay?
They've got a friend that lives in Boise.
Nice. Well, that'd be fun. Yeah. Good for them.
If they hadn't had that, though, I would have been calling hotels trying to get a room for them.
You probably would have been doing it during this episode. Yeah. So if you want to, and then at the end,
you're such a dick. You're such a dick sometimes.
I know.
I swear to God, I can't remember the last time where you weren't frustrated 5 minutes before the show started with me. When was the last time that happened?
I mean, I just think there should be a level of professionalism sometimes when you do this, but
like my AirPods weren't working or something. It sounded like it was, the biggest crisis ever.
It's not, but it just happens. Okay. Well, let's pull back the curtain because you want to peel back the curtain, and I'll peel it back. So usually every episode, his headphones don't work, his little earbuds, and then a couple of weeks ago he tried to turn them upside down, and that didn't work. And every time I've got listener and viewer, I've got to tell Jim, put them back in the case and take them back out. They just reboot for some. I think after the 17th time I've said that, maybe you would think to do that.
Can I tell your viewers and listeners what happened yesterday? That was just so perfect.
My I was just getting to it. As his camera didn't work at the end. My cord came out and my camera went blank. Still doesn't. It's the best, worst old Crimson podcast we've done.
I enjoyed that so much because we went from, you're supposed to have 3 screens, one with me, one with you, and one with Paul.
Right.
And at the end of the old Crimson broadcast,
it was just you and Jamie.
It was just me.
No, It was you and Vinnick. Well, Jamie Vinnick from Coug Fan comes on to give us like a practice report. Then Jamie walks into just a hornet's nest of us yelling at each other. Can't see Paul, can hear Paul. You immediately, right when we welcome the guest onto the show, who, by the way, is coming on for free, you insult the way he looks. I thought that was a nice touch.
I did. I basically told him he looked like shit because he did. He looked like something the cat drug in.
And look at you right now. You look, I mean, you really the cat's meow. The real catch you are.
But Jamie's hair's going everywhere.
I like Jamie's look.
He looks like he has a beard that he's been growing since he was 15.
He probably has been.
And I love like Jamie.
It.
You know what though? I
think
Jamie has thick skin, and I think he's fine with it. You can rip my appearance. Like, I don't give a shit where my hair is going. I'm getting a haircut at 11 today, though.
Okay, great.
Yeah. So I'll look better for the Friday appearance.
Hey, I'm telling you, these haircuts have got. You know how much I paid the other day for a haircut for Owen? My son's 11.
30.
$50.
50.
Just
50?
$50, and that wasn't even the tip. Didn't even include the tip.
And then what do you got to leave? You leave 20%?
I gave him $10.
Okay. Well, that's right.
20%.
Mine's 40 today, and I'll probably give her 50.
God almighty.
Yeah.
Come on, man. Why is it so expensive?
I think you can get haircuts around Seattle for 25 or 30, can't you, for a kid?
I don't know. I don't think so. He went to one of these places that is like all the cool kids go to. I don't even know what it's just like all these high school kids go there. So I knew going, I'm going to pay a little extra, but because he wanted some specific haircut. He didn't want a mullet. He wanted a modern mullet. whatever the hell that means.
Was he happy with it?
No, it doesn't look good. It's bad, but whatever. You know what I appreciate about him is that he just doesn't care. He doesn't care what anybody else thinks. He's like, yeah, I don't know. It's fine. Not what I wanted. Big deal. We'll move on. And I'm like,
okay.
That's good. Good attitude, my friend. Good attitude.
So where are you on the vain scale, 1 to 10?
10 being what, the most vain?
Yeah.
Oh. I don't know.
I think I'm like a 4 or a 5.
Yeah, 7-ish probably.
Are you?
Yeah.
I mean, I care what I look like, but not like I always say, a guy shouldn't stand in front of the mirror for longer than 30 seconds, doing his hair.
Well, we're used to 30 seconds as men. God, so stupid.
That was so good.
It was the dumbest joke in the world. God, it was.
I know. And then, fantasy football, you had to go off on the sexual tangent of your own fantasy. Well, what are your own fantasies, Jason? I don't care about your football fantasies. What about the other ones?
Bondage.
Threesome?
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. You ever had one?
No.
I haven't either.
Yeah. Shocker that we wouldn't.
You haven't even done Limback Lumber yet. You want me to help you with that?
Oh, I got it. We're broadcasting from the PuckSports studios. No, it's built by Limback Lumber. They offer free deliveries for everything from whole house packages, homeowner, DIY projects. They've got the largest stock moldings in the Northwest, old school service, because they've been doing it since 1930. Give them a call, 206-782-3487. Visit them online at limbacklumber.com. PuckSports Studios, built by Limback Lumber. That QR code right there on the screen is going to take you right to Limback Lumber. Those on the PuckSports mobile app streaming, I've just tested it out. It appears to be working. So let me know if it's not working, but mine is working. It appears that we're good. We've changed some things. It was like limiting people, how many people could listen. So, but I think it's up and running, and it appears to be working. So good news. All right. We're taking over the world, Jim Moore, with the PuckSports mobile app. And again, if you're an Android user, I know there's some of you out there. We're in it's in a 2-week process here with the Google Play Store, which is where you get your apps, and they should be ready, I would say, in a couple weeks. We'll get that. That was the other part I loved of the Old Crimson podcast, trying to tell Paul Sorensen yesterday, hey, for where we record our shows, it's called Riverside. There's an app you can download from the App Store, and he has an iPhone. I just said, well, go to your App Store and download the app. How do you get to the App Store? I'm like, it's on. This is what I'm talking about with some people. There's some people, like Paul Sorensen's one. My mom's another one. There's some people that don't need smartphones, like an iPhone, because it's too complicated for them. And then Paul was like, well, do I go to the Google Store? No, the App Store. And then, because I can't find it, I go, where are you at? Well, I'm on the Apple Store. I said, the App Store, where you get your apps. I don't get apps. Okay, we'll move on.
Well, I was kind of privately hoping that his mic wouldn't work at one point, because when he started saying that our defense wasn't too bad, I was like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, it's
have you been watching these games? Or I know you're traveling with Eastern Washington as the sideline reporter or whatever he's doing.
Yeah.
But our defense is not good. And so for him to say that it somehow is, I'm thinking, wait a minute, God, I have shitty analysis sometimes.
He's a homer.
Too.
He's a homer. We're all homers, but he's really homering it up.
I like how you pointed out, Paul, the Cougars are 102nd in the country in defense.
So what? We're 4-0.
I know. Okay. And then Paul, we gave up 50 points to San Jose State.
Yeah.
We give up 400 or 500 yards a week.
Yeah. What I want to get to the Mariners here in a quick second. No update on UNLV. I'm like constantly refreshing like Canzano, trying to get the very latest here with UNLV. Apparently, the whole world is waiting for UNLV to make a decision. I think Pete Thamel had something here in the last hour saying that they are waiting and they've got to go through the Nevada Board of Regents or the Nevada State Legislature, because, again, and I know like John Willner and others shot this down, but he's wrong, shocker, that it's amazing that he'd be wrong, that
he didn't like us storming our field.
You know what? And he can go F himself. I mean, I so had it with people like John Wilner and others telling college kids how to celebrate. John Wilner, and I tweeted back to Dick Fane, because Dick Fane put it back out, is the whole thing, they embarrassed themselves. The Cougars embarrassed themselves by storming the field. John Wilner, and I retweeted it, is the kid in high school that got stuffed in his locker. That's who John Wilner is. He's anti-fun, a dork. It's just, come on. What are we doing?
Well,
why do we care? Why do we care so much about what college kids or any fans do in storming a field or going on to the, why do people care so much about this?
No, somebody put it perfectly on Twitter. It was like, if we had won just easily, like if we'd won by 25 points or whatever over San Jose State, I don't think anybody would have stormed the field. But it was such an emotional back and forth game, double overtime, and to win by 2 points in overtime like that in a season like we're having, where every win is more important than in the past, really. Yeah. And the kids just wanted to celebrate with their classmates, their teammates, their team. I mean, I didn't have a problem with it at all.
Well, but no one should have a problem with it. Who cares who you beat?
Yeah.
It just doesn't matter. It shouldn't matter who you beat. If Washington wants to storm the field because they beat Northwestern, fine. Let them storm the field. Let anybody storm the field. But getting so holier than thou about what fans do. And he has constantly from day one has crapped all over that school in particular. He has from day one. He has. I sat. But
don't you think he's a pretty good?
I sat next to him in a press box years ago when Andrew Luck and Stanford came in, and I listened to him for 3.5 hours bitch and moan about Pullman. And I get it. Listen, Pullman's not everyone's cup of tea.
What was he bitching about Pullman for?
Just it's a dump. It shouldn't be in the conference. All this crap. And I just sat there and laughed at it and and this was before he had even done. I don't even think he was doing his hotline thing yet. So he was just, I think just the Stanford beat reporter.
Yeah, I don't know much about him personally, but he always strikes me as being a good reporter.
Oh, he's a great reporter. He's a great reporter. But that take is just stupid. Just to get so upset about what kids are doing is just odd to me. But okay. I want to get to the Mariners, and I'm going to do this later for Hey, What the Puck. Have you seen this UNLV story? I knew this. You would love this story. This quarterback, this Matt Sluka kid, I think that's how you say his name. We'll go with Sluka or Sluka. His team is, I know you've seen, his team's 3-0. They're ranked, and he has quit the team and has decided to use his redshirt year because, and he alluded to it, that he was promised NIL money. It wasn't, according to him and his representatives, not delivered. So he's like, I'm out. You promised me something. I'm leaving. And he quit on his teammates and his team 3 games into the season, and they're ranked, by the way. How do you like that story?
Well, the thing that occurred to me right off the top was that this is the first time that we're going to hear about something like this, but not the last time. In fact, it's probably going to happen more and more. It won't even be a story after a while. And it's disappointing. You tweeted out about it. What about quitting on your teammates? I mean, I don't know. And then I thought about, what kind of a dad does he have? I mean, was the dad encouraging him to do that, or the mom? His agent, I'm sure he has an agent or whatever. I don't know. He's getting some bad advice, though. Should have just played out the season and then, transferred after that. What do you think about, if you're his teammate, what are you thinking right now? What a quitter. Why would you do that to us? We're having a great season. I don't get it. I don't get any of it.
I think
it's just,
I think
the almighty dollar always wins out. I just get so sick of that. But.
Yeah. I think that I think it's twofold. One is, listen, if he's promised something by a school and then they don't deliver,
Yeah, I can see his point on that.
That's wrong. Now, the other part of it is, well, that's an error on your end, because why didn't you get anything in writing? I mean, these guys want to be treated as adults and want to be paid like professional athletes, and then they enter into an agreement that they don't get a contract for. I mean, it's just it's there is no regulation on this, and I understand his frustration. And I guess initially the story is, and there's a bunch of different stories out there. The school came back and started to pay, was going to start paying him $3,000 a month, right? And so it's only going to get to, like, I think a little over 88,000 or something to that degree. And so it's going to be, it was going to fall short of the 100,000, and that he had only received 3,000 of the moving fee. That's the only thing he had received so far. I think for him, though, and I get him being upset, but don't you look at the other guys in that locker room, the other 80 guys, and go, I mean, maybe I should stay here for you? I don't know. This is the problem with all of this right now is this story. This is just the problem with college football right now. And I agree with you. This probably won't be the last time we hear something about this.
Yeah, okay. I'm sure, like, in the weeks that, before it came to this, where he decided to leave, couldn't they have found somebody in Las Vegas that just said, okay, yeah, we did promise you this, and, find some guy at a casino, that, has just 100,000 laying around, and, make good on what you told this kid. There's a lot of layers to this story, Puck, but I think the one that you come back to is the one that I thought of too, that the most was, what about those teammates? Like, what's our quarterback doing? And whoever the backup quarterback is, I mean, I'm sure he's excited about it, but, they're not going to be as good with that guy. And, UNLV's not known for being a football factory, and all of a sudden they're 3-0 and they're ranked. I mean, that's new stuff for them. And yeah.
Yeah, but it does go back to, again, this whole world of NIL, it does go back to commitment. I mean, who are you making a commitment to? I mean, he transferred from, I think it was Holy Cross to UNLV. And I just think this, whether people agree with this or not, and people are going to be very divided on this one, right? Because they're going to sit there and say, hey, this school promised him this money. He came there for that reason. They didn't deliver it. And now he's gone. And I get that to a degree, but this really does shed a light, I think, on someone's character, doesn't it? Can't you at least acknowledge that if you are pro the quarterback on this?
Yeah, and what you're talking about, I know it's a lot of money to a kid, but I mean, what did he get shorted? How much? 50,000? Do we know how much he got shorted?
Well, it's according to them, he was promised $100,000 and he's only received $3,000.
Oh, well. Yeah, I'm with you though, Puck. I just, the whole money thing, go ahead at the end of the year, and leave, and, leave in a huff or whatever, and you're going to make it up on the back end. If you have a season like you've had already in the first 3 games, and your team has a great season, you're going to get the $500,000 type offers, $600,000 type offers. And now wherever he goes next, there's always going to be kind of this cloud over this kid, is like, are we giving him enough? Or are we paying him?
Yeah.
And talking about the kid's character, even when he gets to the NFL, if he's that good, goes to the combine, all these GMs, everybody, when they have the interview sessions with him, hey, take us through that. I don't even know, but yeah, it's going to happen more and more. It just sucks. College football. And I know you love college football. I do too. It's probably my favorite sport. It really is.
They've done a great job of ruining it, haven't they?
It's disheartening, and then everybody making fun of us, like, you can't really call this a Pac-12 when you're adding Colorado State and Utah State. Well, you know what? What the fuck are we supposed to do? Like we weren't wanted by one of the major conferences, so we just supposed to, like, sit in the corner and pout.
And in that whole element of it too, there's a lot of, it's weird, the national media, the Dan Wolkins of the world, the Pat Forties of the world coming after them, and and saying what they're doing to the Mountain West is despicable. But then I never read anything on their part what happened to them. That's what is odd to me. And then you get and I would encourage people to go read the latest piece from John Canzano. And John writes that the Mountain West was trying to fracture Oregon State and Washington State. They were trying to split them up. So what the hell? Wait a minute. So the Mountain West is just completely innocent now? Gloria Nevarez, who's the commissioner, who's trying to split them up. They were trying to poach Washington State away and try to divide them. So, I mean, they're not innocent at all. And, we'll have to wait and see what it's just weird that it's all down to UNLV. It's just UNLV of all teams there for college football. All right, let's switch gears.
Yeah, I just, Puck, just one more thing on that. I'm really glad that South Florida, Memphis, and Tulane didn't want to be a part of the Pac-12.
I agree.
And it's just the geographical part of it. I know the financial part of it would have been better for us to have those teams in our conference, but I just like the geography of the Pac-12. I like it being in the West. And if that causes us to not get as much money with media rights, so be it. I don't even know where South Florida is, but does that make sense to have them in the Pac-12?
I'm going to take a guess. It's in Florida. It's in the South.
I know, but what town? Are they in Miami? Where the hell are they?
I don't know. I'm with you, and I are
in Key West. I mean,
well, if it was in Key West, maybe I'd be on board. You and I agree. I was not. I mean, I was kind of getting around to Memphis if that was going to be, and maybe it might still happen. I mean, John and I talked about this.
Yeah.
Well, hold on, but Canzano and I talked about this yesterday. And we just floated out this theory, and kind of was workshopping through this thing that it may have been like this grand plan for Teresa Gould to do what she did, in terms of, because think about it. Why was the San Diego State, Boise State, and Fresno State? That was so under the radar. No one had a clue that they were going to add them. No one, until it happened, right? No one had a clue. And then they were so public about Tulane and Memphis and South Florida. Why? Why so public with them? They've got this group called Navigate working for them. So why did they go so public with it? And John and I just kind of theorized, you could at least walk down this road that Navigate and the Pac-12 wanted it out there to seem like they were going to grab Memphis and Tulane. So the AAC spends a bunch of money, which they did, to retain those teams. Meanwhile, the Pac-12 offer to them was low. It was nothing almost. And so people are like, God, why would you lowball them so much? To get them to overspend for those schools so they would maybe not go after UNLV and Air Force, because those in the industry thought that then after they had secured those schools, the AAC, after getting Tulane and Memphis to recommit, they would then go target UNLV or go target an Air Force. And so maybe the grand plan was to get them to overspend, so they couldn't do that. Then they grab UNLV and Air Force. AAC, now they've got money to go out and bring those schools back in. I mean, I don't know. I just think it's at least plausible of the idea. We'll wait and see how it shakes out there with UNLV. But it's all a crappy mess. All of it is.
No, but now that we got Utah State in the conference, I just, if we could add UNLV and if we could get Gonzaga for basketball, if we added Gonzaga for basketball, like football, you look at our conference, our new conference, and you go, oh, okay. Yeah. Not the best case scenario, but certainly not the worst.
Fine.
But basketball, we'd be like a Power 5 conference in basketball.
It's a great conference for basketball.
Yeah.
It's a great conference for basketball if they can add it. Did you tune in yesterday to Los Marineros?
No.
No. Still, you're done. You're out. You're out on them.
Well, I had to work a concert last night.
Okay, so but
I mean, I read Adam Jude's story, and I did a little bit of show prep in case you brought him up today.
Well, they're 3.5 back now, if you include the tiebreaker with 4 games to go. So they have no wiggle room. They've got nothing. I mean, they can't afford anything. They can't afford.
Are you back to hoping they lose again?
No. No.
It doesn't matter whether you want them to win or lose at this point anyway. They're not going to make it.
Well, I recorded Divish already because Divish had a dentist appointment today, and he brought up a good point. He's like, you know what's going to happen? They're gonna win the next 3 or win the next 3 and get to Sunday and then lose with some weird scenario where they could win Sunday and get in.
Yeah, but I was looking at it, and you know how I'm into magic numbers. Detroit and Kansas City, they both are, their magic number is 2. So 1 win from Detroit, one win from Kansas City, and then one loss from the Mariners, and they're done.
Yeah.
So, and then Minnesota kind of factors in a little bit too. The Minnesota's a half game ahead of Seattle.
Yeah.
So,
but don't worry.
No,
Yeah,
I'm
but
just,
I don't just worry about the Royals and the Tigers right now, right? I mean, the Mariners. I was reading a quick little blurb. And I would assume this is right from Adam Jude. If the M's go 4-0, they would need the Royals to lose at least 4 of their last 5. The Twins would have to lose 2 of their last 5. If the M's go 3-1, they need the Royals to lose out and the Twins to lose at least 3.
Yeah.
I mean, the likelihood of any of this happening, not good. Not good at all. Obviously.
I was surprised to see that they're favored today. The Mariners are favored. I guess what am I saying? Can I retract that? I'm not really surprised because
Houston's going to be shit-faced tonight.
Yeah, that's right. And they got a quick turnaround, so these guys might be hungover playing today. The Astros.
You know who's pitching?
You still got Kikuchi. Are they still going with Kikuchi today?
Last time yeah.
Because if I were them, I would just get some AAA guy out there and save Kikuchi and have him lined up for the playoffs. I mean, I don't know. They got
no. See, I don't understand this thought. No, why don't you? If you're Houston, you want to finish these guys off. You don't want to see them in the postseason. You don't want them in. You know how dangerous they could be with this pitching staff. You want to eliminate them. I would do everything in my power to get the Mariners out.
Well, okay, who's more dangerous, Detroit, Kansas City, or the Mariners?
In the playoffs?
Yeah.
I think you could make a legitimate argument the Mariners would be.
I think you're right. But I also think that those other 2 teams that are ahead of you, because of their record, it says that they're better teams. So.
Okay, I mean, yeah, record-wise,
Nope.
but I would just ask you if an opposing team, who you're more fearful of from a pitching standpoint, the Tigers, Royals, or the Mariners. I think most people would say the Mariners.
Yeah. Okay, now if the Mariners happen to make the playoffs, you and I have that bet with Castillo. I say Castillo is going to start. Were you still going to hold me to that bet?
What do you mean still hold you to it? Of course I'm going to still hold you to it if they get in.
No, what do you mean of course? Castillo's coming off an injury, and Wilson's not going to start him in game 1.
You never said anything. You never said anything about an injury.
Well,
that was the bet. Sorry.
Come on.
You should. Sorry.
You think I would hold you to that?
I don't care what you would have done.
Like if Logan, you said Gilbert's going to start game 1.
Yes, the bet was if
Gilbert was just coming off an injury, you think I would hold you to that?
The bet was if it lined up perfectly before the rotation, who would start? If he doesn't pitch in the playoffs because of an injury, then yeah, I'll avoid it. But if he's healthy and he doesn't start, you owe me again.
God.
Pay up.
My ideal scenario is, this is terrible, but I don't care. Is they lose today, and then Detroit and Kansas City win, and so there's no shot at the playoffs whatsoever when the A's come to town on Friday. And then fan appreciation night, no one shows up. No one shows up.
When is that? Is that Sunday?
We just want a better team. We don't want, the Alaska Airlines trip or whatever the fuck you're going to give us. Just give us a better team, and we're going to just in unison not show up until you give us a better team. That's what I would like to see.
Okay. All right. Yeah. I understand that. I totally get it. I totally understand. Yeah. I get that sentiment. 100%.
What was it you did that one year? You suggested a boycott on opening day.
Yeah, 2 years.
And then you weren't even around for the show that day.
No, I was not. I took off for vacation.
That's the spirit.
I like vacation, and like this new venture, it's unlimited PTO. You can do whatever you want.
Hey, how are you going to – I mean, you're running your own show now. How are you going to get 5 weeks off like you had at KJR? Can you figure that out?
I've doubled it, 10 weeks.
What's 10 weeks now?
10 weeks.
Hey, you want me to take over while you're gone? That was always – boy, all the listeners were looking forward to that.
I would love for you to try and put this together one time. And just –
well, I could have done a better job with Old Crimson yesterday than you did.
One time, I want you to take over the controls of this whole operation and see if you could do it.
I really want people to look at Old Crimson today.
It's one of the greatest episodes
Especially,
ever.
I mean, just even the last 5 minutes.
No,
because
watch
that's
the
when
whole thing.
there's just a black screen except for me with my bad hair in the corner of the screen.
And then an uncomfortable Jamie Vinnick from Coug fan wondering what the hell is going on. Like, I think Vinnick felt like uncomfortable.
It was so professionally done. You know, I felt like I was on ESPN or something.
Didn't it? It felt very ESPN-like. You know, one thing I've thought about real quickly on the Seahawks storyline this week. You know, we could have had not roles reversed because Dan Campbell would have been the head coach. But in an alternate universe, the guy Colin plays for Detroit on Sunday would have been our head coach. Remember that? Remember old Ben Johnson? That was like Ben Johnson.
You wanted him.
Yeah, that he was like everyone's like top choice was Ben Johnson. I was pounding the table for Ben Johnson. We need an offensive play caller, blah, blah, blah. You know, I'm an idiot. And they did, remember? And then he was going back and forth. Remember, it was like Seattle and then Washington. Remember, it was that whole, they were competing for him.
Yeah, did he, something happened at 30,000 feet with him, right? Didn't he, like, wasn't he flying to Washington and then change his mind or?
Well, remember, I think Garafolo, we talked to him about it. There was a thought that he interviewed poorly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, maybe that was the case, but.
Yeah. But you'll agree that it worked out pretty well having Mike McDonald.
So far,
even if
so
that
good.
if that was a plan B, it was a hell of a plan B because, I mean, I'm excited about the Seahawks, aren't you? I mean,
yeah, but I just think it's going to be cool for the segment of fan base back then that wanted him, right? Ben Johnson. Now you get to see, which is I think to me is the most intriguing number one storyline on Monday. It's Ben Johnson's offense against Mike McDonald's defense. Because again, like I said, in an alternate universe, Mike McDonald is back at Baltimore or Mike McDonald's the head coach of the Washington Commanders. Because that's what it seemed to be. The other choice was him going to go coach the Commanders.
Yeah, Dan Quinn seemed like a plan B for Washington.
Yes, correct. So yeah, I just think it's gonna be massively entertaining to watch that unfold on Monday. Yeah, obviously.
I like the Seahawks in that game, don't you?
Is it 4? What's the line?
Yeah, 3.5 or 4. I lifted some stuff from Brian Nemhauser, the Hawk blogger. He does a really good job covering the team. I mean, you do a so-so job covering it yourself, but I mean, he does a really good job.
I don't cover the team. We don't. I'm not a beat reporter.
But he had some fun facts that you want me to trot out a couple of fun facts that he had?
Not really, but be honest with you.
Okay.
But go ahead if you'd like.
You didn't want me to bring that up. Is this one of those times that when the show's over, you're going to say to me, like, hey, next time don't bring up Brian Nemhauser?
No, you can do whatever you want to do. You're an adult.
Okay. The Ravens held Detroit last year to 6 points. And who was the defensive coordinator for the Ravens?
Oh, my God.
The Seahawks head coach.
Really? I can't believe that I couldn't have come up on my own.
And
wow,
the Seahawks have faced the Lions the last 3 years, and they've won each game. They're 3-0 against the Lions. They have averaged 45 points a game against the Lions. And everybody sits there and thinks, oh, my God, the Lions, the greatest offense around. They're not really that great this year. They're only averaging 20 points a game. Okay. And
boy,
I will also say that typically when a team has an edge over another team historically, that continues. That trend, a trend is your friend, that continues. So I love the Seahawks in this game.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Well, I want to know what the health is with Leonard Williams and Byron Murphy. I'd love to get an update on that. You don't get much from Mike McDonald, that's for sure.
No.
He doesn't give you anything at all.
Is the center hurt too?
Yeah, well, yeah, I think he's done.
He's done.
He's done for a while. If he's not done for this, he's done for a while. The Davenport, the defensive end, he's done. He's done for the season. They're banged up. They're really banged up.
Yeah.
They got a lot of injuries.
Well, it's going to be an interesting game. Jared Goff's not having that great a season. I know it's just 3 games.
Do you have any more fun facts about Mike McDonald being on the Ravens last year? Is there any you can share on that?
No, I don't. But they had the number 1 defense in the NFL last year with Mike McDonald as a defensive coordinator.
I got to write that down. McDonald was the D coordinator last year.
You don't have me on this show you don't have me for insight. You don't. You have me for fun.
For
bad
fun
hair,
and for bad hair.
Ripping on people.
Yeah, I like ripping on people.
making fun of Jamie Vinnick and Paul Sorensen. You
know what I saw the other day? Before we get into Ryan Divish, and we got to let you go and go on another hike, or you're getting your haircut. Have you already done your hike today?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, 2 hours.
You know what I saw yesterday? You tell me if I'm crazy. Okay, 85th Street in Ballard is a 25 miles an hour zone, all right? But people don't treat it like 25. It's treated like I-5. People are going like 50 on this thing. It's a major high. Like,
how can you go 50 on a surface street in Seattle when there's so much traffic?
I'm just telling you, people do. 85th Street from the water all the way like to 15th, like going east. It's just like a major thoroughfare. 85th Street. It's people that are around here know what I'm talking about, and people just go balls to the walls on this thing. I'm walking the pups on the sidewalk, and I see this mom. She's on a Vespa scooter, okay, with 2 kids on it, hanging on, one in the front and one in the back wrapped around mom. They're probably 3 years old. What do you think of that? I was like, that's maybe the dumbest thing I've ever seen from a parent in my entire life.
The kids are how old? 3?
There's no way they're older than 3 or 4. No way.
And they're both hanging on to their mom?
One's in front. She's on a Vespa. You know what a Vespa scooter is?
Yeah.
Okay. One's in front, like kind of hanging onto the middle part of the handlebar. Mm-hmm. The other one is on the back and barely on the seat and like bear hugging mom. And she's, zipping down 85th going, 25, 30 miles an hour. And I'm watching this going, you are the stupidest person I've ever met. And then she pulls off because one of the kids is like on the back is almost falling off and the helmet's coming off. So she readjusts the helmet, I think, on the girl. And then they get back on the street heading east. She veers off into the other lane almost, and there's a truck coming the other way. Again, balls to the wall, because that's what they do on 85th. And I'm looking at this guy. He's on his phone, just looking at his phone the whole entire time. Can you call somebody? Like, is there a hotline I can call out there, like a negligent parent, and report this woman? Just an idiot.
It sounds like that's a reportable offense. Yeah.
Shouldn't it be?
Yeah, I would think so.
Oh,
maybe she has her kids well trained to, hang on to mommy. Just hang on.
Just hang
but
on
when you're
for dear
3,
life. I mean, 3 or 4 at least. Yeah. I mean, there's, can't be that much older. All right.
Was she good looking?
I couldn't tell, Jim, but if she were, then of course it's okay. All right. I love you to death. Go check out the Old Crimson podcast if you want to hear me and Paul and Jim and then later Jamie yell at each other for a while and then just all.
Our defense is good.
And the entire show goes dark. Can't see Paul, can't see me. Jim's laughing at everybody, takes a phone call during it. It's great. I can't promote it enough how good it is. And also Cougs Corner with Ben Arbuckle. All right, you're the best, sir.
All right. Take care, Puck. See you.
Go Cougs. Yeah, go Cougs. There he is. Jim Moore, every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, he joins us here on the program here on Puck Sports, which, of course, you can watching it right now on YouTube and X, and, of course, listening on the Puck Sports mobile app. All right, I had teased this before. We had to record with Ryan Divish because Divish had a haircut appointment. No, not a haircut appointment. What did he have? Divish had a dentist appointment. So we had to record earlier with Ryan Divish, actually late last night with Divish to get ready for the show today. It's a good one, recorded or not. Divish was excellent like he always is. I'm just going to say last night because he's drinking Crown Royal, and I didn't want anybody to think at 10:45 he's drinking Crown Royal. So I'm doing Divish a service. But Ryan Divish, who joins us every single Wednesday, it's brought to you by Chalet Bowl. Chalet Bowl is the Washington's oldest operating bowling alley, proudly serving the community since 1941. It's located in Tacoma's historic Proctor District. Their family owned and operated for over 40 years. You can check them out at chaletbowl.com to book your next reservation and experience the best in local fun. We cover the state of the M's, playoff scenarios, what's next, future of Edgar Martinez, what went wrong, why 2 years ago they're on the cusp of overtaking the Houston Astros, and then all of a sudden they are in the situation they are in now. Ryan Divish, Seattle Times, again brought to you by Chalet Bowl. You're glad that you weren't there yesterday, so you didn't have to cover that. Ryan Divish is with us as our weekly visit, brought to you by Chalet Bowl, Washington's oldest operating bowling alley, proudly serving the community since 1941. Located in Tacoma's historic Proctor District, Chalet Bowl has been family-owned and operated for over 40 years, delivering top-notch customer service and a unique 12-lane experience. Check out chaletbowl.com to book your next reservation. Experience the best in local fun. Ryan Divish of the Seattle Times. We're here on YouTube, on X, on the PuckSports mobile app. If you don't have it, download it today. Well, how many divisions in a row is this for Houston? Is this 4 or 5?
4. It's 4 and 7 of their last 8, I believe.
It's just, I mean, and they weren't even good this year.
No, I mean they were good down the stretch, but yeah, they weren't great when you look at it. I mean, it's pretty impressive, all things considered. I mean, I didn't expect this.
I mean, you think about what they were able to do, and again, we're going to get to the Mariners. It's a real testament to the Houston Astros just as a team, as an organization, Brian. And I think you can sit back and just appreciate from a baseball sense. You just can't kill them. They just have a tradition of winning. And in a year in which they weren't supposed to win it again, in a year in which Kyle Tucker misses almost the entire season, in a year when their starting pitching is injured left and right, and a guy they spent millions on to play first base, they just get rid of him. I mean, they win it again. It's remarkable. It's remarkable and sad what the Mariners let off the hook, because it was such a golden opportunity for them. It's like you fishing in the river back in Montana. You never can quite snag that big fish and reel it in. Pretty much the same thing.
This is, I mean, like, I live that lifestyle. I'll admit it. But they know how to win. Like, that's the big thing. They know how to win. It's just they find ways to do it. I mean, it's a different manager. It's a different, it's a different group of players on a lot of levels. But the same core is there, and they just find ways to do it. I mean, the one thing is their pitching wasn't great, but what they realized was that they needed to score runs, so they scored runs. They had injuries to their starting rotation. They figured out that their relievers were pretty good, so they found a way just to get guys to 6 innings and then go from there. They adjusted to what the team was providing in terms of performance, and then, found a way to win. I mean, I think that's the biggest takeaway you take away from the Mariners, is that it took for how long for them to try and it's not to say that they weren't trying to fix the hitting. They were trying everything. It just wasn't working. And the pitching was good. I mean, it's going to be record setting and historic, but it wasn't good enough to overcome the offensive shortfalls, because the bullpen wasn't quite up to standards. And it just seemed like the few games that, that they needed to win, or there were some games where maybe the pitching wasn't perfect and they lost some games. I just think it's hard, to look at this season and view it as anything other than a massive, massive failure. I guess, technically they could still get in. I don't know how that would be, but they could do it.
I mean, they got 4 games and they're 3.5 back.
Mm-hmm.
I guess they, right? Is my math, am I correct on that one? Let me just make sure that I'm right on that one, but I'm pretty sure that that's correct. They're 2.5 back, but you factor in the wild card. So Royals, Tigers, and so
they need one of the teams to lose every game, and they need to win every game.
So mathematically, they're still alive.
I guess. I mean, why do we play the Powerball, though? I mean, I play it all the time, and I just sit there and think about what I would do, if I won it. Missoula and Maui would be my home spots, but, I just I just would. I mean, like, I don't.
Beautiful.
That's why we play it. And I mean, you still have to play. You still have to go out there and compete and try. I mean, that's the whole thing. You put yourself in this position. Maybe you don't think there's any hope, and maybe you don't think that there, the math or the logic says it's not going to happen, but you signed up for it. You got to play them all. And that's what they have to do. Until they are mathematically eliminated from the postseason, you got to play them all. You got to play them for every one of them.
Yeah, but it is, if they don't, and again, it's a long shot for them to get in, and if they don't, I mean, there's just going to be a lot of self-reflection on what went wrong this year, and I think one of the first things that they'll probably react to, and I don't, maybe you agree or disagree, is should we have made the move earlier with Scott Service? Because they seem to be playing better baseball with Dan Wilson. I don't know if that's a direct correlation, but I mean, I think there's got to be some correlation to how they've played, at least offensively, and maybe that'll be one of the things. Certainly not the biggest thing, Ryan, but it's one thing, and it's just that their core players, and I think particularly their superstar, has got to find a way to get off to a better start. And I don't know how you do that, right? Like, because he still has the same swing that he has at the beginning of the season, at the end of the season, but he performs so much better. But okay, he's changed it.
Yes.
Okay, but he's always a slow starter.
Yeah, he's been traditionally. I mean, like at the first month of his rookie year, it was slow because he was getting jobbed by all those bad calls and stuff.
That's true. True. Fair.
He's changed his swing. You can see it if you look at it. It looks more athletic. He's more spread. He's more into his legs. His hands are back a little bit more. It looks like a normal baseball swing instead of the slow pitch swing he tried to break out this year to start the year. I think like Dan manages the game exactly how Scott does.
Okay.
I mean, like if you look at
nothing different.
No, I mean, like I look at like the lineups he rolls out and stuff. I mean, he's playing the guys that are performing well and the guys that are, he's still adhering to the platoons other than JP today, which you could probably have, taken some umbrage with. I think it's, pretty much the same. And it's not like he's getting in guys' faces or anything like that. They're so similar in who they are personality wise. I mean, I think you can point to some of the changes in the offense being more about the structure of having Edgar and maybe just the idea of like, we're not going to force the hitting philosophy that the organization has really kind of lived on the last few years. And then the 9 versus 1 mentality of everybody, trying to beat these pitchers using data and all this stuff and looking for that one really good pitch to hit and all that other stuff. So I don't know how much, every player follows that. I mean, like, Randy Arozarena does whatever the hell Randy Arozarena wants to do in the batter's box. I mean, he really does, and you think Justin Turner is going to, I mean, Justin Turner has an idea of who he wants to be as a hitter.
Sure.
And I think his presence has been big. I think you could say when they fired Brant Brown, who was overseeing Jarrett DeHart and Tommy Joseph, like as the offensive coordinator that everybody joked about, but coming up with a daily offensive plan. When you fired him and then you didn't replace him on the staff, you just, for I don't know how long, had Jarrett and Tommy do it. And then you brought in minor league coaches. Their minor league hitting coordinator, CJ Gilman, would come in. They brought in Sean O'Malley, who's with Tacoma. They bring in different coaches from the minor league system to help out. But like if you thought then, like, hey, look, Brant Brown's hitting strategy and his voice, which was the dominant voice for the hitting idea, was wrong. Do you really just go without nobody as the overall defining voice? I mean, like, you're asking other guys then, okay, Tommy Joseph in his first year and Jarrett DeHart is more of the swing mechanics guy. And then all of a sudden you're asking them to talk to Julio and all these other guys. And I mean, like, again, I think part of, Julio didn't buy into it doesn't seem like Julio really bought into the Brant Brown philosophy and how he did stuff and how he wanted to do stuff. So why wait? Maybe Edgar didn't want to do it. I mean, like, I would ask that, why not bring in Edgar sooner? If you can, and why, is he going to come back next year? I don't think he is. I think.
How do you make him an offer though how do you make an offer you can't refuse? I mean, how do you do that, right? I mean, you have to, don't you?
No,
don't you have to at this point try to make some type of offer to him where it is so difficult for him to say no?
You just make him an offer where he doesn't have to travel as much. Okay. That's what you do, and maybe he'll do it. And just say, hey, look, we want you there for spring training, for most of spring training, for the home games. If we really feel like we need you to fly in, we'll fly in, but we won't make you do the daily grind. I mean, I don't know if you've seen him, but he looks older now than he used to back in the day. He doesn't look like the guy in the statue.
Well, that's usually what happens, Ryan. As you age, you look like you've aged.
Not this Asian, half Asian person.
That's because the Asians, you just, I don't know what's in your blood. It's unbelievable. But when it does, first whiskey. Of all, Japanese whiskey. But when but when it does go south for you, it goes south fast.
Oh yeah, no, I'll look like one of the characters from Big Trouble in Little China. So David Lopan,
best movie ever, ever by Kurt Russell.
Yeah, Best of Times probably second.
But Best of Times, and then I'm a sucker for Overboard.
Yeah, original Overboard. Yeah,
just a sucker for Overboard. Mm-hmm. Everyone's gonna say Miracles. Miracles are so down on the list when it comes to him. Escape from New York, better, and all of it.
Yeah. Tango and Cash. Quality movie.
God, I forgot about Tango and Cash. So Tango and Cash, Cash and Tango. Every time you're there.
I mean, like that's my argument though. Is like, maybe that was the bigger issue. Is because it wasn't like under Scott, you never said they didn't play hard, right? They always played hard.
Yeah.
And they ran the game by like the logical data points that you use now, not just saving your closer and trying to pitch. Well, what they didn't have was they didn't have some quality leverage guys when Brash got hurt and Gregory Santos never really appeared. And that, you're running Trent Thornton and guys out there like that. They did that for too long in the season. I mean, apparently Troy Taylor was pretty good. They just were waited around for him for a long time,
mm-hmm.
They
too long.
So to me, the overlying issue is the offense, but did they do everything possible to kickstart the offense in a way? Why not bring in Edgar? Why not the moment you fire Brian Brown, why not bring in Edgar or bring in somebody that says, hey, look, this plan wasn't working. Let's find a plan. Let's find an overall plan.
Is it because of the guy who runs the baseball team, the president of baseball operations, that then when you bring in someone like Edgar, then it doesn't mesh with what you're trying to get across? Does it kind of cut your legs out from underneath you? I mean, I'm being honest. I mean, one of the first and only interviews that Edgar's done, he hasn't done many, and I'm not sure if you did it or what Jude was. I mean, the time that you put Jude on it probably was one of those shitty road trips you didn't want to do, so you made Jude do it.
St. Louis.
See, it was. I knew it.
I was at Randy Rogers' band, and then I got my parents a puppy. Way better trip.
Okay, so and when he comes out and says, "Yeah, I don't really care about barrel rate and exit velocity," and I mean, he's spitting in the face of analytics when he came out. But he did, right? I mean, he did to a point.
He's kind of spitting in the face of, or he's just kind of not. I would say discrediting it. He's just downplaying the role of exit velocity, barrel rate, all the other things.
He's more see ball, hit ball. Let's just get back to let's see the ball and hit it.
And because, if you think about it, thinking about offensive productivity is a big reason why he's in the Hall of Fame, because if you look at OPS and WRC plus and all these things that they measure now, that's how it helped understand how good he was, because they didn't have maybe the traditional counting stats that everybody has. I mean, for a while there, people thought OPS was stupid. We all use it now. I think he understands all of that, but what he doesn't want is, from the way I read it, and I've talked to him about this stuff before, is just keep it simple. He doesn't want all that stuff like barrel rate and stuff leaking into the approach at the plate. I think the Mariners' bigger issue is the approach at the plate and going up there, and I don't know if it's paralysis by analysis or what. They just they didn't seem to know what they wanted to do, because like I think, and I get this 9 versus 1 mentality and this idea of like knowing exactly what a pitcher wants to do to beat you and then beating them with that pitch. But at the same time, like it's so many games and so many at bats, and the circumstances are all the same. So if you don't know exactly what's going to work, I don't know. I mean, like I look at like everybody's giving Edgar the credit for like this turnaround. I give the hitters the credit for the turnaround. I give Edgar the credit for maybe freeing up their minds a little bit. But really, like, the biggest offensive contributors are the 2 guys they brought in, and then the kid in center field who made the changes listening to Edgar. I mean, like, you look at it, Cal's been the same. He's been productive pretty much all season. Luke Raley's been really productive other than 1 month. But you bring Turner in, you bring Randy in. Now that changes your lineup. Now you're not
Robles.
Yeah, Robles. You find Robles. He's having, I don't know about the bunting with 2 outs sometimes and a runner on first. That's a little odd. But like you bring those guys in. It's also about a who, not the what. Like those guys produced. So like if they would, like maybe even if they changed and had Edgar in, but you're still running Haniger and Garver out there every day, plus Dylan Moore's playing more and all these guys that weren't producing for a long stretch, do they turn it around? Like Julio, Arozarena, Turner, Robles, Raley, and Cal have carried the bulk of what they're doing. And so I think that's like, it changed the math considerably. And they also got healthy. Like Julio wasn't healthy for a good stretch of that time where they really started to fall off a cliff. I just think that it's like there's a lot of things that go into all of this, whether or not it's Julio, whether it's Edgar, whether it's Scott versus Dan. But at the end of the day, like they got they got better talent on the field for these games. They had a better lineup they were putting out there, at least in terms of performance-wise. And so then they started to win. That's not complicated. You can look at it and say the problem is for the first how many games before the trade deadline, how many of those guys that were expected to produce underperformed at significant levels. You're talking Haniger, Garver, Crawford, who got lots of at-bats. Then when Crawford's hurt, you're playing Demo out there and putting him in a position you don't necessarily want. France was struggling. You move him out. You had the revolving door at first base of guys you're trying, and then you weren't playing Raley all the time. Once Raley got going, and then you had Raley and Cal, and then you have Julio, like it's just different look because you don't have as many struggling players out there every day. Like how many games did Mitch Haniger play before he lost the full-time DH role? Or Mitch Garver, I mean, how many games did he play before he lost the full-time DH role? At a 175 batting average and a 220 on base and a sub 300 slug, you're talking about 250 plate appearances. I mean, how many games did you lose when you got those guys out there?
Yeah, and I know he was, after the game, JP was very honest with his assessment of the season. He told reporters, just how do you feel? And he just shitty. Didn't do my job. I've got to do better than that. It's been a shitty year at the plate, plain and simple. He's not the only one that's had a bad year, but I wonder, was last year just a one-hit wonder for him?
I mean, that's what you wonder. Is that the outlier? But we've never seen kind of the strikeout rate and the non-competitive at-bats that he's had this year. The playing time's been sporadic a little bit because of the injury, and that was always the question with him too. But it does sometimes look like he's trying to sell out for some power when that's not really him. The home runs should happen, not try to force him. So like it's like I was talking with Adam Jude today while he was in the gym. I mean, like the guy's hair is perfect in the gym because he FaceTimed me from the gym because he's on the Peloton. And he FaceTimed me to make fun of Daniel Kramer doing some weird lifts with pink weights.
God.
So anyways, and he's like, I don't want you talking a bunch of stuff on Puck about stuff we're going to write at the end of the season.
Okay. God, Jesus, Jude. You know what?
But what I did, we had talked about some end of the season stuff. And, I've been on here and I said, they got to trade one of those pitchers. Right. Like watching Bryce Miller pitch last night, I'm like, screw it. You don't trade any of them. You know what? Don't. No, just don't. That's the one thing you're good at. Don't weaken it and then find a way to get better offensively. If you just incrementally add, if you do it, dump some money into it, trade a bunch of prospects to get a guy that makes you better. Don't trade those guys. The only one I would trade, I would trade Castillo. If like the Dodgers, if the Dodgers, Yankees, or Giants offered and said, okay, yeah, we'll trade. But like, you know, it's not like, it can't be just about giving up the money with Castillo. He's getting older, you know, of the group. He's probably had the, you know, this season was a little sporadic. I mean, he was still really good. But given his contract and given, you know, how much he's owed, yeah, you should look at trading him, but you better get something real. Like if they got, like if the Mariners traded Castillo, ate some of the money and got back Gavin Lux to play second base, left-handed bat with some pop, yeah, fine, do it. You find another pitcher and make another pitcher. You have Brandon Garcia, you have Logan Evans. Or if you want to keep all 5 of them again, then you go out and you have to trade one of those 2 really good young pitchers that people don't know a ton about, but all the baseball scouts do, and package him with Cole Young and somebody else to get a better hitter. But like, I just don't think the four young guys, because like Woo, you could trade. Like the idea of being with Woo is whether or not he can stay healthy. You know, I think it's just kind of dumb trading pitchers that have 7 pitches that can get you out. Bryce, George, Logan. Yeah, they're going to get more expensive, but
I'm with you, man.
So I changed my whole thinking. I'm like, you know, don't trade them. Don't trade them. Run it. Just try and run it again. The question you have is like, can they replicate this kind of pitching? Yeah. Probably not.
Is Jude going to write a story on trading one of the young guys? Now he's going to be pissed off.
No, we have just other stuff. We just like, you know how it is. I mean, like he's just very
he's competitive. He doesn't want you to spill any beans here. You know, F you, Jude. F you.
I know. You know, notice he didn't text you back about coming on and doing the dual podcast.
You know what? Did he not? He didn't, did he?
No, I just, you know.
Yeah. I'm going to reach out to Jude. We're going to do the end of the year. We're going to do an end of the year show at some point. And I said, Jude, you want to be a part of it? Now that I think back, he didn't reply. Hey, Jude, right there, you and your hair and everything. You know what? F you, man. We don't need you, Jude.
You're Nick Lachey good looks. We don't need, It was funny that he made fun of Kramer today. It was like the most awkward lifting I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah. I'm with you. I don't trade any of them. So, like, none of them. I don't trade in. Castillo certainly makes the most sense. That young core is too good to trade. It's not worth it. And if somehow like Dipoto, I mean, were to be fired after next season, I don't want him making a decision on those 4. I just don't.
Yeah, you wonder, like, because we don't really know what the contract that's the extension is, or it's multi-year. If it's 1 year, if he's a lame duck, is he making moves to save his job, kind of like what Bebazi did for Bedard?
Yeah,
you know, I do think like there's enough people in place that maybe would talk him out of some of the a desperate move. Well, I don't see the value in it right now. What I kind of look at is the bat you would get back for Bryce Miller or Brian Wu. You better know that he's a dude, and like teams just aren't willing to do that anymore. You know, is Jordan Westberg enough from the Orioles to give up Brian Wu or Bryce Miller? I don't know. I don't know what the value is, because it's like you don't know how teams value these guys. But you know, I just think that pitching is so difficult to replace when you lose somebody that I wouldn't do it. I mean, I would shop Castillo to the people that could afford him. You know, I guess if it's like, you know, if the Yankees are willing to give up, I don't know who they got. They're all just huge.
I mean,
the Red Sox might do it though. The Red Sox have money. Like if the Red Sox were willing to give up Tristan Casas, maybe. There's another thing is this. Castillo's got his no trade clause.
Yeah.
You know, we don't know if he wants to give it up or not. He loves it here. He likes being here. I think if the Yankees or Dodgers call, sure, he probably is willing to waive the no trade clause. But yeah, that's I just kind of shift. I was watching Bryce pitch last night, and I was
so good.
Yeah, I'm just sitting there, and it was, you know, I'm contemplating life from playing 9 fast pitch games over a weekend and like barely being able to walk. And so I was just like, no, keep him. Like, no, just keep him. Because like he's everything that you want your pitchers to be. Like all these guys they drafted a bunch of pitchers this year. Him and Logan Gilbert and George, but like Bryce more than anybody, because he continues to evolve. Logan obviously does, but Bryce was a 4th round pick.
Yeah.
He's projected. A lot of people had him as a reliever. And I think the Mariners deep down thought he was going to be a reliever, but you know, he has turned himself into a quality pitcher because he continues to improve. And you don't want to give up guys like that. You want to have them there so you can point to them in your org and say, look at this guy, just do this, put in the work, you know, listen to what we say, listen to what watch what they do. And they're going to be good. I mean, like Bryce has talked about that last year, like just how important it was him and Brian being around guys like Logan and George. And George and Logan talked about how important it was to be around somebody like Robbie Ray, who works his ass off and does the right things and, you know, is a pro. Like, I don't think you want to lose guys like that to search for bats, especially when you have to realize this. They don't do a good job of assessing major league hitters right now.
No, yeah. They don't. They don't. They just which is maddening. It's maddening that they're so good at the pitching side of things, but when it comes to the hitters, that they just don't. They just can't deliver it. How did we get from less than 2 years ago? Jeremy Pena ends just an incredible series, an incredible game, and I think a lot of Mariner fans are left thinking, and even people that cover it going,
"This is the window.
This is the next step. They're going to take the next step next year and get past Houston. They're that good." And Houston talked about. Houston talked about how that was probably the toughest series they had.
Yeah.
And then in less than 2 years later, we're talking about the 4th straight division for the Houston Astros. They overcame a 10-game deficit, and they're going to win the division comfortably. How did we get here so fast?
A lack of investment in the product. You know, it's like you grow something, you know, I'm sure back in your dorm room with grow lights or whatever. If you don't water it and feed it, it's not going to go. So like they have this nucleus of players that are pretty good from the 2022 season. And in 2023, what do they do to help the 2023 team? Like, what did they go get? What do? They essentially ran it back. They let Carlos Santana go. They, you know, what were their moves that year? It was Tommy La Stella and Colton Wong, and that was like they traded a non-essential part of their team and their success for a guy that they thought might help them. It was a bad for bad swap. And then I'm trying to think who else they didn't add.
Yeah,
did they really add?
No, they didn't have for 2 years. They didn't have.
And so then they have the team that they think is a little flawed. Oh, I guess they traded for Teo. They did trade for Teo.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they traded for Teo, and he underachieved. So then what happens?
You take that underachievement this year.
Yeah. So what happens is then they don't have him, or so they go into this offseason and they think they're going to spend, and then ownership says, well, no, we're concerned about what potential losses or diminished revenues or diminished dollars from Root Sports are coming in. So we're hesitant to add because we don't know what it's going to be like in the financial landscape. Like the performance on the field never really came into that thinking in a lot of ways because you're worried about what your projections say. But what do your projections say if you win the division and go make a run in the World Series or make a run of the World Series? What do your projections say then? So then what they do is they say, well, we're going to increase payroll by like $3 million, $3 or $4 million. And they tell Jerry, okay, well, that's how much money you have to work with. You find a way to get better. We're not going to stop you as long as the money evens out. So then what you do is you do all these different moves, trades, sign, you know, where we've said shop at Nordstrom Rack instead of Nordstrom, or like, you know, for you, TJ Maxx. And
I stop. I don't shop there anymore.
Okay.
I'm strictly the Rack.
Okay.
But back in the day at TJ Maxx was pretty nice.
I can find some decent stuff in there. I mean, you just don't know who's touched it and what they've done to it. But like, yeah, so then like you have this nucleus of this team, and then you don't do anything to like really supplement it in a way that bears like proven results. You know, Garver, the biggest question of these guys was whether they were healthy or not. We didn't take into account aging, injury history, still dwindling production based on typical regression of guys over 30. And so then you get this production. But do you really think that's how I don't think Jerry DePoto wanted it to do this way. I don't the one thing I do think sometimes, and I may be wrong, but I do think sometimes that there's no quantifiable way to measure it, but the lack of guys in there to hold accountability levels for all players, it's missing. Like, everybody talks about how big Carlos Santana was for that team. And they talk about the presence of Suarez, and like, well, everybody says, well, Cal's a leader. He's the captain. Yeah. Cal's got a lot of shit to do in a day. He gets there at noon. He leaves at midnight, and along the way, he gets the shit beat out of him on every foul ball. I've never seen a guy get hit in the cup more than Cal Raleigh. And then, hit 31 bombs and like run the pitching staff. And so it's like, you need guys like that, guys like, people are already talking about what a great dude Turner's been, just in terms of being a voice about hitting approach. And like Cal was saying on an interview, it's like having another hitting coach, because Turner's so measured and has such a grasp. I mean, you look at his approach, he might get beat, but it's a competitive at bat all the time.
Yeah.
God bless him too for proving that athletes, no matter how not attractive they are, can still do well. He's a nice, actually, he's not Jude, but
can't wait that gets back to you. I want that. I want that to come around.
I think I read something where he said, like, look, I know I'm not the best looking guy. He is, like, honestly one of the nicest, most, and like, if you talk to him about hitting or about baseball, the landscape of baseball, he's really smart. You have to have guys like that, because a lot of these guys have no experience in all of this. And I think they thought Haniger was going to be that guy again, but he just didn't play enough, and he didn't. I don't think
he just doesn't play enough, though, Ryan. He wasn't good. He's done, he's just done.
That's what I mean. Like, he didn't play enough, and he wasn't good, so he can't go tell other people what to do when you're not playing. Of course not.
It was just, so we knew that going into that.
And it wasn't his personality. Has always been a leader by work. He'll say stuff and about but like, he wasn't like Seager. He followed Seager's path, but they don't have that. Yeah. And you could argue, and I've heard some players, some former players and stuff say that kind of was lacking. And they say it's because Jerry doesn't really care about player leadership and stuff like that. Now, I don't know about that. He was on a team. There's leaders.
He played, though. God, you would think he would understand that. He played the game.
Yeah, but like there is no quantifiable way to measure leadership and all that veteran presence and all that stuff. But like, when shit's going wrong and you don't know what to do, and you have a bunch of young guys that are trying to fight their way out, sometimes you just need a calming dude in there to help you out.
100%.
Especially one that can play. I think that's the bigger issue. Is like, everything they did this year was predicated on the potential for optimal success from everyone for them to be good.
Yeah,
including JP and Julio not having a slow start, which he did. So you have all that stuff. I mean, like, it's great that they did this now and everything else, but like, they can't, the 2.5 months or whatever it was from June 14th to whatever, when Service was fired. I mean, like, you can blame the hitting coach, but that's just catastrophic underperformance from a lot of guys. And, I think that's a problem. So I don't know. I like, some people there have been a lot of people that have said, the lack of having that guy, like a Suarez or whatever. I don't think they really wanted to get rid of Suarez. They had to get rid of him. They didn't love that he didn't arrive in shape last year. And by all accounts, he didn't really arrive in shape this year. But like, he plays well. He played himself. He got hot. Played himself into shape and got hot. and he is a good presence to have in that clubhouse. And I think when things were going wrong, I think there were a lot of guys looking around for help. And at that point too, JP was on the injured list. He was on the injured list for 2 of those months where things were pretty bad. So like people talk about the influence of Robles. It's like he's just a crazy man out there playing. It's different. It's a different approach. It's he does stuff that's a little different. And you know what? It helped guys. But I just think that I don't know how much to value it, but I do think having better established talent around that group is why they're at where they are right now. Because like they didn't add a Randy Rosarena at the deadline, or in the off season. They didn't. You had a lot of question marks. Like even right now, like if we're going into next year, your outfield, right? It's Randy, and it's Julio, it's Robles. Okay. Then where do you feel comfortable in the rest of the positions? Catcher,
center field.
Your left fielder, your right fielder, you have those guys. You'll play Rayleigh at first most of the time. You'll have a right-handed component to it.
Yeah, I mean, you're void at second, you're void at third. I think there's question marks at short. Yeah, I mean,
the thing is, JP's under contract.
Well, I know. I'm just. I mean, those are just the positions that jump out. Yeah.
But you're essentially you piece together second base with utility guy, and third base together with utility guy, and third base traditionally is a power type of position. So I don't think that I don't think they should trade a pitcher, but I don't think they can run it back with what they have. You lose Turner, you lose Jimmy Garcia, and that's about it.
Yeah.
I don't think you can just look and say, okay, maybe just some pieces from within are going to fix this. Cole Young doesn't seem like he's ready to go. I mean, Locklear, kind of is what he is. They don't have that you don't have the Adam Jones or somebody waiting that you can produce. So where do you go? What do you do? And that's why if you don't have the money to truly add to your offense, like I just don't know that trading one of those guys is going to fix it and then fix the hole you created in your rotation, because then you're looking at rookies to do that.
Yeah. I as we wrap up, I looked back in our text thread, and Jude did reply right away that he was in. So you know what? Hey, Jude, I take it back. Okay. I take back the double birds. I take back the FUs. I'm sorry. My bad.
I got to thank him. I mean, like this has been, he made this year a lot easier.
That's what he does.
And I mean, as I'm not the most favorite person of certain people in the front office right now. So
you don't say.
Having Adam around is pretty good.
Yeah. They like him more than they like you, and it's okay to admit that. All right. We'll have a few more. We're going to do a lot more shows because Ryan has nothing to do in the off season. So we'll iron out all the details with his agent, and don't worry about it. You'll still be hearing from him. But baseball season is winding down. We'll cut you loose. Divish is brought to you by Chalet Bowl, Washington's oldest operating bowling alley, proudly serving the community since 1941, located in Tacoma's historic Proctor District. They have been the best in delivering top-notch customer service at their unique 12-lane facility. Check out chaletbowl.com. Book your next reservation today. In case you missed it.
You didn't ask me what I think is going to happen in the Final Four games. Like, what's going to happen? What are they going to do?
What do you think they're going to do?
I think they're going to win the next 3 and go into that last day with some weird chance. Because tomorrow's the hungover game for the Astros, right?
But Kikuchi didn't drink. Kikuchi sleeps 15 hours a night.
Oh no, they got him some Japanese whiskey. Altuve's got one of those like yardsticks you get in Vegas, and so it's as tall as him. He's just pounding it. I think we all know what Verlander's doing tonight.
God, and what do we all want to be, Verlander?
I mean, right now Josh Hader is probably wearing an American flag tank top and just pounding Bud Heavies with a cowboy hat on.
Yeah, and nothing else. That's
just
it.
I mean, so they'll probably win the next three, just to give you hope again, and then crush your hopes and dreams.
Yeah, well, that's being a Mariners fan for the past 40 plus years, right there. All right, in case you missed it, YouTube, Apple, Spotify, wherever you find your podcast, and of course up at PuckSports.com. There he is, Ryan Divish with us. We did, again, tape it late last night. It's just so everyone is clear that he wasn't drinking Crown Royal at 11 o'clock. That went long. It was a deep dive with him, just getting the, everything updated on where the Mariners are at right now. I mean, they obviously still have a chance to get in the postseason. I kind of agree with what Divish is going to do. They're going to win the next few games. They're going to get to Sunday with some type of a chance. We'll see. They can be put out of their misery here today. And we'll have more conversations with Divish as the season goes on. He's not going anywhere. We're going to keep him. We'll still talk a little baseball. We'll sprinkle in some other things with Divish, but it'd be a crazy offseason for the Mariners. I mean, just absolutely wild. All right. We are late to this guy. Okay. I mean, and Danny Kelly, I am going to have to apologize to Danny. We're going to have to send Danny a bunch of extra stuff and apologize to him because we are way late. Danny Kelly, sorry.
What's happening?
We went late there with Ryan Divish, and that's my bad. Danny Kelly joins us every Wednesday to talk all things NFL and fantasy football there as well. You can find Danny on Twitter at Danny B. Kelly, senior staff writer, The Ringer Fantasy Football Show, and, of course, The Ringer NFL Draft Show. It's all brought to you by Georgetown Brewery, locally owned and operated, pouring the greatest, best local craft beer for the past 23 years. Manny's Pale Ale, Rogers, Bodie's Alpha, all of it. They are open, the tap room, 10 a.m., 8 p.m., 7 days a week. Visit them at georgetownbeer.com. All right. Where do you want to start first? Do you want to start with why did Taylor Swift ruin Travis Kelce? You want to go there? Or?
Well, we could do that for sure. Yeah.
People are thinking that and that's the underlying storyline right now with Travis Kelce. His production's down. He's not really incorporated the offense. And what people want to say is, see, this is the Taylor Swift effect. This is what's happening. Right? That's what people want to say.
I mean, it also just so happens that he's getting older, and people, as they get older, their bodies tend to not be quite as fast and explosive and all that stuff. But yeah, I mean, he's definitely fallen off pretty precipitously in terms of production and what we were expecting coming into the season from a fantasy point of view. He was anywhere from, depending on where you look, the tight end 1 or tight end 2 to 3 coming into the season. And right now he is the tight end 26, right behind a fella named Johnny Munt, who, you weren't drafting Johnny Munt in the first 3 rounds of your fantasy.
I have no idea. Who does Johnny Munt play for?
Vikings, I believe. He is basically backup for TJ Hawkinson, who is nursing an ACL injury at the moment. So, he's basically right now in terms of even expected fantasy points per game, he's right around Zach Ertz. Zach Ertz plays for the Commanders now. Zach Ertz famously, one of the funniest storylines in NFL for the last few years is Zach Ertz never picks up any yards after the catch. He just catches the ball and falls down. And that's kind of, unfortunately, what Travis Kelce has been so far this year. I don't think he's necessarily going to be like this all year. But Kelce has a total of 21 yards after the catch this year in 3 games. So,
and everyone's kind of saying the same thing, Danny, right? Oh my God, the Chiefs offense, it's struggling. They're 3-0.
Right.
That's the thing I love about these guys is that they struggle so much, but still they're 3-0.
I know. Well, they have a very good defense, and I think offensively they have adopted a much more ball control type of offense over the last couple of years, especially last year when, they didn't have any good receivers, essentially. Their receiving core last year was one of the worst I've ever seen. So this year they have, Rashee Rice is coming into his own. He's basically stealing all those Travis Kelce routes over the middle, the run after the catch, crossing routes. And so, I think this offense is going to be fine. I think Patrick Mahomes is going to be just fine. And as they start to incorporate Xavier Worthy, their rookie, into the offense a little bit more going forward, I think that they'll continue to get better. So I'm not worried whatsoever about the Chiefs.
I want to go back just to the Seahawks here for just a quick. Go back to the Seahawks here just initially. They're off to a 3-0 start. Okay, everything's going great. They haven't really played anyone, so I think you've got to take that into account. What do you make of the 3-0 start? Is it kind of a pretender for them, or do you see? Because people want to knock them for it. Right, I want to knock them a little bit for their start. What's your take on how they've done it today?
I mean, I think you have to play the teams that you're playing, right? You only can play the teams that you're lined up against, the quarterbacks you're lined up against, and they've done a pretty good job of dominating all three so far. It hasn't been perfect by any means, but I'm very, very encouraged. The pressure rate defensively has spiked dramatically from last year, which is really encouraging. That's basically what we were hoping for and expecting from Mike Macdonald. Like, figure out a way to get these pressures coming from the edge. They do the complexity, the illusion of complexity thing where they have guys dropping and, coming from different directions and things like that. So I've been really, really encouraged with that. Their run defense seems a lot more disciplined than it was last year. I know they gave up a lot of rush yards against the Patriots, but for the most part, I've been pretty encouraged with their run defense. And I think their offense is good. And I think their offense is going to continue to be good. Geno Smith has been really, really, I think one of the better quarterbacks in the NFL this year. So, overall, very encouraged. I know that the real test starts when they start playing some of these real quarterbacks, but 3-0, you got a good cushion in the division. I'm not complaining at all. Like, this is exactly what you'd hope to do playing three bad teams.
Yeah, I mean, and the thing too, Danny, right? We've been watching a lot of Seahawks football in the past, and I just think of Colt McCoy every time. In the past, they lose to teams like this, right?
Yeah,
they lose,
I hate that.
They lose to teams, and it's massively frustrating.
Yeah, again, this is you beat the teams that you're supposed to beat. Like, that's like half of the battle in the NFL, I feel like. And just don't give up some of these gimme type games. You have to take advantage of the matchups when you have good matchups. And, like I said, they've done a really good job of clamping down on the bad quarterbacks they've faced. So you have to feel good about that. And by the way, like the defense is probably going to get a little bit better as the season goes on, as they start to really learn this new system and start to figure out, and the coaches start to figure out exactly who's best at what. We've seen that, year in and year out with the Pete Carroll defenses. They start to get a little bit better as the season goes on. I think we could expect the same from the Seahawks, as long as they can stay healthy, of course. And that's a huge question mark.
Yeah. And that's, and then we'll find out more, this week, I think, on the health of Leonard Williams and Byron Murphy, and to see where they're at. And here's the thing I enjoy about McDonald. He doesn't give you anything. There's just nothing.
Yeah.
That is, and I'm not, these guys don't need to win the press conferences. They don't need to give people anything. I get it. But he will give you nothing when it comes to injuries.
Yeah. He's got the Harbaugh tree type of thing where he's just like, we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens. I'm going to try and get him out there to practice, and we'll see what happens.
For as young as he is, he's so old school.
Yes. I actually love that. It's funny because, we went from the Seahawks went from the oldest coach in the NFL, but he was like the youngest at heart, kind of.
Yeah, he's he's bouncing around, he's snapping his gum, and he's throwing the football, and he's got his white Monarchs on. Yeah. And
now you got the youngest coach in the NFL, and he's like an old soul. He's very, disciplined, stoic. It's just like a total contrast to what we had with Pete Carroll, and I'm enjoying it so far. Obviously, I think the results have been great, but Brady Henderson just put together an article this morning that was really interesting on ESPN, basically talking about how McDonald is essentially like so much more of a disciplinarian. He's like, he has these guys kind of like, it's almost like a drill sergeant type of attitude versus, the Pete Carroll, where it was like, a father figure almost kind of, and like, so it's a very, very different style and identity, I think, from a coaching point of view. And it's just fun to watch kind of that huge difference after, 14 seasons with Pete Carroll.
I'll be honest with Danny. I think sometimes this new age player gets a bad rap because they can't be coached hard.
Right.
And I think they can. And I think they can be coached like this.
Just because you're Gen Z doesn't mean you can't be coached a certain way, right? Like, everybody's a little different for sure. But based on like the quotes we've seen from the players, it's like basically they already have a ton of respect for him. It's like, basically, can you command respect? It's not can you take hard coaching? There's a difference. It's can you command respect And I think McDonald has the players' respect already. And that's like the most important thing, honestly, for a coach is, do the players buy in? Do the players respect you? Do they listen? Do they think you're doing the right thing? Everything we've heard is like, they think he's really smart. They're leading him in the right direction, and they're excited to kind of like get with the program. So, I think that's been a huge factor here. He commands respect from the players, and obviously I think from the fans so far as well.
We've come a long way from taking down pictures in the hallway.
God, yeah. But I'm
I
so glad.
It's
so nice this season.
I'll raise them. I was one of those who's like, I don't like it. I'll be honest. I did.
Yeah. Well, I don't know, because like from his point of view, I can understand. Like you have huge shoes to fill when you're coming in for Pete Carroll. It's like you got to. I think I honestly like respected the willingness to ruffle feathers and come in here and change things up. And this is my team now. Like this is not the Pete Carroll Seahawks anymore.
Sure. But we needed something at that time to talk about, all right?
Sure, of course.
Okay?
Yeah,
someone, for us that do this, and you come up with something for 2-3 hours a day to talk about. I needed Picturegate to be there.
Well, I mean, look, the players. I think Richard Sherman came out and was kind of like complaining about it. So from the player point of view,
a lot of them were like ex-players, like I don't really quite understand that. It wasn't just funny, idiots like me.
Was not just a media fabricated thing, but you're right.
He's just, it's so far so good. It's gonna be a fun matchup this week because I've been thinking about this all week long, and I'm sure others have as well. What could have been, right? We could have been playing this game Monday night in Detroit, and on the sideline for the Seahawks is Ben Johnson. And the storyline this week is Ben Johnson going back home to face the Detroit Lions. I mean, it was close where Ben Johnson, there was a lot of reports that he was going to be the guy, that he was deciding between Seattle and he was and Washington. Mm-hmm. And then if he was the choice in Seattle, then the choice in Washington was going to be Mike McDonald, and Dan Quinn was going to be the guy left out. I mean, in a weird, and I mentioned this earlier with Jim when he was on, in a weird alternate universe, Ben Johnson's the head coach of the Seahawks on Monday.
I know, and if I'm being completely honest with myself, I was rooting for the Ben Johnson thing. Because,
so was I.
Yeah, I have like sort of just a philosophy in this day and age with the way that the NFL has kind of evolved is like having an offensive head coach allows you to keep your coach. It allows you to keep that play caller. Like the play caller is such an important variable in an offensive ecosystem. Or in a franchise ecosystem. And so, the idea of being able to have that like McVay or Matt LaFleur, like whoever you want to mention, Shanahan type of like offensive mind in the building where you can keep him for a long time is really important. And if you look at the NFL, around the NFL, I think the longest tenured offensive coordinator and real offense, and by that I mean like play caller, is like 2 years. So if you're really good, you become a head coach. And if you're bad, you're not really playing calls or call plays, I should say. Yeah. And so, I think ultimately I'm very glad with how it kind of all went down because I think Mike McDonald is, he's the McVay of the defense in theory, hopefully. But yeah, I was definitely rooting for Ben Johnson at the time. I kind of, I quickly talked myself into McDonald though.
Yeah, I mean, you wanted the offensive guy, and he was the offensive coordinator du jour. But then the stuff comes out, and I don't know how much of it's true or not true, but that he interviewed poorly, and they were like, yeah, no thanks. Yeah, I mean, like that decision to not hire Ben Johnson. I mean, the trickle down is what we just talked about. Dan Quinn probably doesn't end up in Washington, and Mike McDonald is not here in Seattle, and whatever Detroit is doing, with their offense. So I just will be a fun storyline because again, 3 games in, they've won, but they face Bo Nix, Jacoby Brissett, Skylar Thompson.
Right.
They get a much better quarterback in Jared Goff. I know he's not having a great season, but this is an offense it wants to be physical against them. And how are they going to respond with that physicality? I mean, the Patriots a few weeks ago were physical with them in the running game, and they dominated the running game against Seattle.
Yeah, that's my big worry, especially if Byron Murphy and Leonard Williams are out this week. That's going to be, it's going to be really tough because I think the Lions are the type of team that if something's working, they're not afraid to stick with it and kind of just like dominate the game from the trenches. They've spent all these picks and all this cap money on their offensive line. It's one of the better offensive lines in the NFL. So They're a little bit banged up too. I think Frank Ragnow has an issue.
Yeah, he's out. Davenport's out there. And
Laporta,
Laporta's done, or he's out for a bit.
He has an injury right now. We're not sure if he'll play. He's got an ankle injury right now. So
this injuries, this has been the craziest start to the NFL season.
Seriously.
Because like the 49ers got a bunch of injuries. We got it on the rundown. But injuries across the league. The latest one with Justin Jones for Arizona. He's done for the year with a torn tricep. I mean, this has just been, I don't know. I mean, I think it's just all coincidence. There's no rhyme or reason to it, but this has been the year of a rash of injuries across the NFL.
Yeah, to big name players, big high impact players, especially. So it's just, I do believe, like you said, it's a very random thing. Some years it's not as bad as others. And you could probably point to the idea that, not playing in the preseason, people not hitting in training camp and all that stuff may have something to do with it. But I bet you it's all noise.
I have a theory.
What's that?
The dynamic kickoff.
Let's blame that.
I think we should start start a movement here. The reason for the rash of injuries is the dynamic kickoff, even though none of these guys are on the dynamic kickoff. But let's start it. Let's see if we can get a groundswell moving. Someone bigger than us picks it up, and then we get rid of the dynamic kickoff.
Just don't fact check any of the the stats around that, or the fact that these guys are not really playing on kickoffs at all.
Yeah, don't do any of that, but just let's get rid of it. But if these injuries, in again, Seattle's dealing with their own.
Mm-hmm.
But man, I mean, you got a 2-game lead right now in the division, and all of your rivals, they're all dealing with injuries. I mean, you are as well a little bit, but you got to take advantage of this right now.
100%. And that's the other reason it's like, man, count your blessings that we're 3-0. I don't care who we played. Like the other teams in the division right now are really going through it. Like the Rams, I know that they won that last game. I honestly don't know how they won that last game. That was pretty miraculous on their part, but I don't think that they have it in them to be like an actual contender this year with the types of injuries that they've sustained, the number of injuries that they've sustained. It's like their whole offensive line, essentially. Their 2 top receivers. I know Cooper Kupp probably will be back sooner than later, but, passing 19 times to one player is not necessarily like a great way to win a game. Like you have to have a little bit more balance than that. And so I don't think the Rams are probably going to have just like the horses this year to compete. And then I think the 49ers, just be glad that the 49ers are losing games right now because they're going to come back. I think they'll be fine. They have so much talent, so many top tier players on that offense. And Brock Purdy honestly looked really, really good last week, despite having all those injuries. So I don't think they're going anywhere. So just this cushion is really important right now.
Yeah, of course. The 0-3 teams, we got the Jags, Titans, Bengals. Who's the most in trouble?
For me, it's between the Jags and the Titans. Right. The Jags look like an absolute mess to me. I just think, despite some of the talent they have on that team, it just does not work for whatever reason, for a multitude of reasons, whether it's coaching, the quarterback decision-making, the vibes. I don't know, like there's a curse on this team or something, but
could be.
They just do not look good to me. They're just always a little bit out of sorts. And then the Titans, I think the Titans, they have some talent too, and I think that, they have a little bit more potential to bounce back, but man, they just got to get Will Levis to stop making these backbreaking mistakes every week because that's really kind of sinking them. And so, I think with both teams, it's a quarterback and turnover issue. And I don't know for sure if either of them can kind of solve that. If you look at the number of turnovers that Trevor Lawrence has had over the last couple of years, it's pretty wild.
Okay, so Doug Peterson, I mean, it's going to start, right? One of these guys is going to get fired. I always thought that Eberflus is going to be one that will eventually be on the chopping block this year. I don't think Dave Canales yet, but who knows with that guy. Doug Peterson, it just feels, I think Albert Breer's already come out and talked about how, hey, watch out for Bill Belichick in Jacksonville.
Can you imagine? That seems just like the polar opposite franchise to the Patriots. I know that the Patriots, when he took over, were kind of a down in the dumps team, but it's just a funny contrast to think about him in Jacksonville and the hot weather in Florida. But But
and
yeah,
then,
I mean,
and then playing in London like every other week.
I know, so bizarre. I guess like, you know, Belichick, I feel like could kind of get into that because he's all about like history, military history and stuff. He could probably bond with them about all the World War II stories and stuff. But yeah, I think that kind of is what I was getting at with the Jags. Is like it doesn't feel like they have a rudder. You know what I mean? And like ultimately the buck stops with the head coach. I don't know one way or another if Doug Peterson is a good or bad coach, but at the end of the day, like this is a disastrous team so far, and like at some point you got to make a change. And so, yeah, I would not be surprised. Do you think are we? Is the talk that like that Belichick will come like coach this year, or are we waiting till after?
I mean, I don't know. I mean,
he's got so many other jobs right now.
He does. The guy is everywhere. You can't turn on the. I don't know who's on more now. Is it Belichick or is it Jason Kelsey?
Right. I think those are like the two most favorite or famous people in football right now and in football media.
My favorite show though, and I just see clips of it. I don't even know where it's at. Maybe it's on the CW. Whatever show that Belichick does with Michael Lombardi.
Oh yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure 100%. I think that so. There's the Inside the NFL. I think that's on the CW.
Is that one? Because what I love about it, he just did this whole film breakdown on Cam Ward, Miami quarterback, of course, was at Wazoo, and he likes him. But what I can't take my eyes off is Lombardi's toupee. It's unbelievable how bad it is.
I did see a clip from that show where Belichick was like doing a pop quiz to a couple of different people. I think it was like Chad Ochocinco.
So I think that's Inside the NFL, like the old like HBO Showtime. Now it's on the CW.
Yeah. And I thought, I shared that around to some of my friends because I thought that was like, this is what they got to have Belichick doing. It's like, explain to us NFL history, because it was basically he went through and was breaking down the Shanahan Kubiak, like tree from where it started. There's all these pictures of Shanahan and Kubiak on the sidelines back in like the 90s. It was like so funny to see. And now these are the guys that are like running the NFL essentially. And so I thought that was like really good from Belichick in terms of like, that's probably the best thing I've seen him do in the media so far is just get him talking about the history of the game. And he's like, he goes off. It's awesome.
It's amazing, these guys who are just, the personalities as coaches, they don't nothing. And then they go into that world and they're unbelievable. Like Chris Peterson at UW. Now he's doing Fox College football and Chris Peterson's great. But when he was the head coach, he was just like, I don't want to talk about anything.
I mean, if you were a head coach, though, don't you think that's like the best way to approach it? It's kind of like the McDonald thing. It's like, honestly, if I don't have to give the media anything, why would I? I understand the relationship with the media like matters, but at the same time, it's like, I'm not telling you anything I don't need to. I'm like not legally required to tell you kind of deal.
Probably. So. I would always take the Mike Holmgren approach, and just way back in the day, he'd always diffuse every question when he didn't want to answer it with, what's your name? Steve, that's a great question, Steve. And then he'd filibuster.
Yeah.
But when
just talk about something else,
he would diffuse the question that he didn't want to answer by making sure that he knew the name of the person. And then that like softened it. And then the reporter felt, I don't want to do a follow-up. He knows my name. But
that's savvy. Savvy move right there.
It is savvy. Do we think Malik Willis has found it and figured it out?
That's a great question. I had we have a thing on our show every Sunday on the Ringer Fantasy Football Show plug. Yeah.
There you go. What time does that air?
It goes up late Sunday night after the games. And then we record shows on Monday and Wednesday and Friday. So we get those all going on all week.
You can find it Spotify, everywhere where you find your podcast.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you very much. But yeah, we have a thing on our show called Intrusive Thoughts. And it's basically like, I don't know if this is like actually a thing, but I had this thought. I'm like, does the success of Malik Willis the last couple of weeks like make you think Jordan Love is actually not that good? Like, you know what I mean? Like if they can do this with Malik Willis, like why not just stick with this? And I'm not saying I actually believe that, but I did have that kind of thought enter my brain. I'm like, maybe Jordan Love's not as good as we think. Maybe this is just an awesome scheme, an awesome coach, because he's looked incredible. I mean, I don't think it's probably super repeatable over the long term. It's probably they captured lightning in a bottle a little bit with these two games. But I mean, he has been incredible on third downs. He adds an element with his legs in terms of like what they can do in the run game. We've seen what the Commanders have been able to do with Jaden Daniels this year, and like when Malik Willis came into the NFL, I was obviously a little bit higher on him than he ended up like being with the Titans. I kind of thought like a creative team that utilizes his legs. Like he comes in, he's going to be one of the better runners at quarterback in the NFL already at the first minute he steps on the field. And I've really liked what the Packers have done in terms of, getting him involved in the run game. Just his presence there on like read option plays, like a hold defenses. It'll kind of like freeze a guy. You don't have to block him. So it gives you an advantage in the run game. They've done some really cool things with ends arounds and motion and all that. So just a really, really creative job by Matt LaFleur in terms of like getting the most out of him. And he's looked really good, honestly. Like, and the proof is in the pudding. On third downs, he's been one of the best quarterbacks over the last 2 weeks on third downs. And is that repeatable? Probably not. Like, likely not. But he's been great. Like his success rate and his EPA per dropback on third downs is literally like first or second in the NFL over the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, I just ask you because again, eventually, and we're not pushing Geno Smith out the door and he's playing great. You have to find a quarterback of the future. And I'm just wondering if you don't find it in the draft, can you find it in someone who is flamed out here and then all of a sudden you give a second chance? Like I remember right when Bryce Young got benched, I saw it somewhere, speculation. Oh, maybe Seattle go and see if they can pry him out of Carolina. They clearly have always had a trade history with Green Bay with Schneider's connections there.
True.
So, I don't know, just something to kind of file away if he continues to play well. Can you find a guy that eventually takes over for Geno Smith there?
Yeah.
Malik Willis. And then you brought him up, and I wanted to ask you about Jaden Daniels. This is it's why you can't judge these guys, and you got to let them grow at their own rate. I remember watching him at Arizona State just going, okay. And then he went to LSU, and I'm thinking, he's not going to do well there. It's the SEC. He's going to get crushed. And then he wins the Heisman. He gets drafted, and he's looked great. Of all the guys, he's looked the best.
It's so, I mean, look, this is a perfect example of why it's just so hard to evaluate quarterbacks because, like you said, this is a fifth-year senior. He's been playing since, like, he was throwing passes to Brandon Ayuk, who's just signed his second contract. You know what I mean? Like, he's been in college football for a long time. That created a little bit of doubt in the back of my mind. Like maybe he's just like, 3 years older than everybody he's playing against. And like that matters a lot in the college football. He's got two guys that he's throwing football to right that are already kind of lighting it up in the NFL. Like Malik Neighbors, I don't know. Is he a top 10 receiver in the NFL already? Maybe. You know what I mean? Like he looks incredible. He's doing things that we've never seen from the receiver position in his first 3 games. Like truly setting records already. And then, the Michael, what's his name? Not Michael Thomas, the guy for the Jaguars. I'm blanking on his name, the other receiver. He has like the most generic name, and I always forget it for some reason.
Hold on, I'm going to find it for you now because now I'm blanking on it.
It's like something like akin to Michael Thomas, like the most generic name, and I can't believe I'm forgetting it. But
it happens when you get on the spot like this. You can't forget Brian Thomas.
Yeah, Brian Thomas Jr. So Brian Thomas Jr. He's already looking good for the Jags. Yeah. And so it's like, man, he was thrown to these 2 guys, 2 first rounders, both look really good already. Yeah. Like how much does that have, an effect on what he's done in the college? And yeah, he and to his credit, Jaden Daniels already looks incredible. Like he looks like he's under complete control. They've already played 2 games where they didn't punt. Like to me, that's like the wildest stat you can find about him. They've already 2 out of 3 games they have not punted.
Jesus.
Which is like never happens. I think somebody shared a stat the other day. It's like Brady had like 2 games in his career where they never punted, and Jaden Daniels has played 3 games.
That's
and
wild.
I know it's pretty crazy. And so and honestly, it's not just like pure luck. The things that they can do with him as a runner in the short, like in short yardage situations and in the red zone are kind of similar in my mind to like the tush push revolution, where they are just like unstoppable on 3rd and short and 4th and short in 3rd down situations and in the red zone. And that like is incredibly valuable for your offense because you essentially have this extra down to work with. Yeah. And so, and we saw him pass deep a little bit more in this last game. And if he can unlock that and like be pretty consistent throwing the ball down the field, they're going to be pretty tough to stop. I'm not like completely sold that Jaden Daniels is like, already proven himself already. You know what I mean? Like, I still think he has a lot to do in the NFL and to prove that he can, be a game in and game out consistent, like passer in the NFL. But it's hard not to be really excited about what he's done already.
Before we go, before we cut you loose, give me a fantasy waiver pickup guy. Who do you got? What's burning up right now? Who's the most popular guy to grab if he's available?
For me, Bucky Irving for the Buccaneers, a rookie running back out of Oregon. Yeah. He's looked incredible already, and he's like on the verge. He's on the cusp of taking the job straight up from Rachaad White in Tampa Bay. If you look at some of their stats, like, first of all, they're within 2 points of each other in fantasy already through 3 weeks. Like, Rachaad White was, I don't know, third or fourth round pick, and Bucky Irving was a complete afterthought. They've almost done exactly the same thing through 3 games. So go pick up Bucky Irving if he's still out there for some reason on waivers, because I think sooner or later he's going to have the lead back job, is certainly on early downs. And I think he has the skill set to be kind of like a 3-down guy if they eventually go to him, if Rachaad White continues to not really do much on the ground. So he's the stash at least type of player, but I think you can also play him just because of the way that they're utilizing him.
Okay, I will go check it out. Danny B. Kelly on Twitter, senior staff writer, Ringer Fantasy Football Show, Ringer NFL Draft Show. Tell everyone again where we can find all the work there with the Ringer and the fantasy stuff and the NFL show.
You can find our weekly rankings at theringer.com. You can find our show on Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts. It's the Ringer Fantasy Football Show, and you can find me on Twitter at Danny B. Kelly. Also, we are on TikTok and Instagram now, so look up the Ringer Fantasy Football Show on both of those.
Okay, I'll have my teenager. She can come over and tell you how to do all the TikTok dances.
Yeah, I need the help. I don't know. I don't understand TikTok in particular. But yeah,
no one does. We talk all things NFL every single week. Brought to you by Georgetown Beer, Georgetown Brewery, Manny's Pale Ale, Bodie's Alpha IPA, Rogers Pilsner. There's something coming soon. I'm just going to tease that. Tap room open 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. 7 days a week. Go visit them at georgetownbeer.com. You're the best. Sorry for the delay. We'll talk to you next week.
All good, man. Thank you.
There he is, Danny Kelly. Follow him there on Twitter, Danny B. Kelly. He is the very best talking all things NFL and fantasy football there with Danny every single week. All right, we've gone long. God, we were really long. Yeah, well, that's what happens when you get Divish. And he's ranting, raving about everything. Let's get to Hey, What the Puck. It's brought to you by Restoration One in North Seattle, your restoration company that lets you avoid the stress of water, fire, mold damage with their property restoration services, locally owned and operated. Make them your first call when damages affect your residential or commercial property. 206-817-8917. Visit them online at restoration1.com. Click on that QR code. It's going to take you right there. Well, we talked about the UNLV story a bit. If you don't know about it, UNLV kid, he transferred from Holy Cross to UNLV. Running Rebels are off to a 3-0 start. They're playing great football. They're ranked, I think, 23rd in the country. He has decided to redshirt this year because he went to UNLV on the promise that he was going to get, according to reports, $100,000 in NIL. Now, he didn't get it in writing, didn't get a contract, all of that. And according to his agent and his father, the only thing that's been paid to him so far is $3,000, and that was to cover the expenses of a moving expense. So he says, I'm out. You promised me this, and I'm done. I see both sides of it, and this is the dirty world of this. When you get into this type of business, for everyone involved, this was bound to happen. And why there needs to be rules and regulations with this, and why you need to have contracts signed. You have to have a contract signed. So you know what you're going to get. The other side of me is that I just couldn't do that as a teammate. I could not quit on my football team. I just couldn't do it. And for him to sit there and quit on his squad, and I also don't want at the same time excuse with what UNLV did. If you promise him something, deliver it. Yeah, this is the world. If you promised him $100,000, then give him $100,000. And so I can get why he probably want to bounce, but God, there's just part of me that's like, how do you look at those guys in the eyes, your teammates, your roommates, and say, sorry, good luck? What if they fall apart, and what if this team goes on to have a great season and then you're left behind? I just think it speaks a lot about the kid's character. It really does. And I also think it speaks about the character if they did not pay him from UNLV. There's people out there that says the report's not true, that he was paid, but that he and his representatives family went back for more money after the 3-0 start. So we'll wait and see how the story develops. It just, all of it is just an ugly situation. And it's what's wrong. The story with UNLV today is what is wrong with college football. It just is. You want to get into an NIL deal, which is great. It should benefit these kids. You got to sign something. There's got to be regulations for it. The other story here on Hey, What the Puck is this, Matt? I haven't followed this, and I don't follow him. I don't care for his music, whatever. And I haven't been following like Macklemore's deep dive, into the abyss of what has happened to him. Seems like he's kind of gone off the rocker a little bit. And he had a concert, I guess, a few days ago, and he just said F America. And then the first place I saw it, I think Aaron Levine was tweeting about him. And he was at a pro-Palestine rally and all that. And yeah, I mean, he's a part owner of the Kraken, and the Sounders and the Mariners are playing his song in the 7th inning stretch. Well, all of that's going away, and it's going to go away. There's no way the Mariners will continue to play that next season. They can't. That will be pulled, whether they do it this weekend or not. My guess is when they come back they're not playing tomorrow, right? They're playing Friday. You won't hear it on Friday. I'll bet you $1. There's no way his song is being played on Friday. Not going to happen. And I bet you within a few days, you're going to hear the Sounders and the Kraken have taken him off their ownership. You can't have that stuff. You can't have it. And what has happened to him? Like someone who doesn't like him, don't follow him and all that. He has really gone off the deep end. I mean, the hairstyle, the mustache, the rhetoric. He's someone has lost it and has gone a little off the deep end and gone cuckoo. But he'll be canceled by all those organizations real fast. Guaranteed that's going to happen. But the UNLV story, I'm just going to follow that more and more because it's just it's one of those things where I see it right down the middle. I see both sides of this whole thing. I see both sides of it. I see him being a bad teammate, and then I see him, hey, if you're going to commit money to someone, you better commit money to him. And he's got every right to be pissed off that you haven't paid him. This is the new age of college football. All right. That is the longest edition we've done of the Daily Puck Drop Live. That's unbelievable. Thanks to Jem was with us. He'll be back on Friday. Ryan Divish and Danny Kelly. Coming up tomorrow on the program, it's a Thursday, we'll have Mike Garafolo and Brad Haddam. College football fans, Cougar fans, our podcasts are up Cougar Wednesday. The Old Crimson podcast with myself, Jim Moore, Paul Sorensen, and Jamie Vinnick from Coug Fan with the practice report is up right now on all platforms, YouTube, Apple, Spotify. So is the Cougs Corner, where we talk to a player and or Jake Dickert or a coach every week. This week's guest is Ben Arbuckle. He was fantastic. He goes into that that overtime play, the interception. He was great. All, again, available on all the channels and platforms. We'll be taping the Husky one with Elise Woodward and Jordan Ruffert later today. In fact, about an hour or so. Normally, we'll put that out tomorrow, but since the game's on Friday, we'll put that out later this afternoon and evening. All right. That's a long one. Hopefully, we'll have all this up here pretty soon here at around 1:30 or so, in case you missed it. Thank you, everyone, for checking, watching, and listening, watching on YouTube, watching on X, listening on the PuckSports mobile app. I know there's still some glitches. I don't think anyone exceeded their limit today, but the glitch of you can listen to it, but then you can't go off of it and like check Twitter and all that stuff. Jacob, the app guy, he's working on that. We'll have that fixed real soon. All right. Thank you. Thank you all for watching and listening. We'll talk to you tomorrow. As always, we promise to be better.
No shirt, no shoes, no ties.
Would anybody like to smoke some pot?
Yeah. I was born to love you. I was born to lick your face. I was born to rub you. But you were born to rub me first.
What do you need my address for?
We'd like to send out a mailer.
Mother of mercy, I don't speak Japanese!